Usually when we think about getting robbed, we picture something incredibly physical, like really obvious.
Right, like a broken window or something.
Exactly. A broken window in the middle of the night, maybe a picked lock on a car door, or, a masked person physically demanding your wallet.
Yeah, an external force violently breaking through your defenses.
Right. And we understand that kind of crime. I mean, it makes sense to us. But what happens when the intrusion isn't physical at all?
That's the terrifying part.
What if, instead of breaking the lock on your front door with crowbar, someone simply hands you a script, sets up an elaborate stage, and quietly manipulates the lighting and the sound until you just willingly, almost eagerly, hand over the keys yourself?
It really is a complete inversion of how we typically understand theft and victimization.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at a crime where the weapon isn't a gun or a knife. It's this invisible architecture of psychological manipulation. And because it's invisible, well, it's profoundly misunderstood.
It really is. And that is exactly why we are setting a very specific, very grounded tone today. Welcome to this Scars Institute Exploration podcast.
Thank you.
We are actively stepping away from the true crime drama, the sensationalism, the hype that usually surrounds this topic. This is a highly serious analytical exploration dedicated to scam survivors.
Absolutely.
We're taking a hard look at the actual machinery of deception. But before we get into all that, I know you had something you wanted to say first.
Yes, I do. And before we really get into that machinery, I want to take a moment to speak directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, please do.
Particularly if you are a victim or a survivor tuning in right now. I need you to hear this clear, compassionate, and absolute reminder.
It's so important.
Being scammed was not your fault. You are not alone, and the Scars Institute is here to help you.
Exactly. It is never your fault.
What we are going to explore today is precisely why these tactics are so devastatingly effective against, perfectly intelligent, capable, educated people.
Right. And to do that properly, we are using an incredibly comprehensive roadmap today. Our guiding material for this conversation is the article on the Scars Institute's Encyclopedia of Scams, Romance Scams Now website.
It's a phenomenal resource.
It really is. And we need to explicitly credit the author who put this exhaustive, eye-opening framework together. This is from Professor Tim McGuinness, Ph.D. certified in trauma-informed care, recoverologist, anthropologist, scientist, polymath, director of the Society of Citizens Against Relationship Scams, Inc.
I mean, it is a truly remarkable piece of work because it just strips away all those superficial details.
Right, the stuff that distracts us.
Exactly. Our core mission for today's conversation is to decode the 15 underlying mechanisms that nearly all online and phone scams share.
The actual blueprint.
Yes, the blueprint. It doesn't matter if it's a romance scam pulling at your heartstrings or a fake bank alert terrifying you about your life savings.
Or even, like, a tech support fraud claiming your computer is infected, right?
Exactly. The surface story changes constantly, but the underlying machinery, that engine driving the deception, is identical.
Wow.
Identical.
By understanding this machinery, you can spot the framework of deception regardless of the specific story being told to you.
Well, let's start taking this engine apart, beginning with how these people even get their foot in the door. I mean, before a scammer can steal a single dime, they have to get your attention.
Right, they have to initiate contact.
Yeah, and somehow bypass your natural everyday defenses. They have to manufacture an environment of trust completely out of thin air.
Which is not easy to do.
No. But according to Dr. McGuinness's article, they start with communication channels that allow for massive scale and speed.
Yes, point 10 in the text, I believe.
Right. We're talking text messages, automated phone calls, social media pop-ups. It allows one criminal sitting in a room thousands of miles away to cast a massive net instantly.
Yeah, the initial approach is all about volume, but then it rapidly shifts to adaptability.
Like a chameleon. Precisely like a chameleon. They throw out a million hooks, and depending on who bites, they tailor the narrative.
So like a desperate job seeker gets a fake offer for remote work.
Right. A lonely person looking for connection gets a romantic message. A busy professional gets a notification about a blocked package delivery.
Okay, but the foundation of all of those hooks, no matter the story, it seems to rely on borrowing someone else's credibility, right?
Yes, the false identity.
They use fake identities. They spoof caller IDs, so your phone literally says, fraud prevention. They steal official logos from the FTC or local police, and they use technical jargon to sound official.
It's highly sophisticated staging.
But wait, hold on a second. I have to ask.
Go ahead.
In our modern digital age, my phone is constantly warning me about scam-likely calls.
Sure.
Our email filters are incredibly aggressive.
Mm.
How are they still getting away with faking a caller ID? Shouldn't our technology be catching this before it even reaches us?
Well, that is the logical assumption, right? But
Uh,
you have to understand that the scammer isn't primarily trying to bypass a computer's security firewall.
They're not.
No, they're trying to bypass human skepticism. What the text brilliantly outlines here is the concept of false authority presentation.
False authority presentation.
Exactly. Human beings are deeply, profoundly conditioned by society to trust institutions and respect authority.
Oh, I see. We're taught that from the time we can walk, really. You respect the badge, the uniform, the official letterhead.
Exactly. From childhood, deference to authority is baked into our survival and our social integration.
That makes a lot of sense.
When an official logo appears on your screen, or a caller ID reads Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the person on the other end uses formal, structured, authoritative language,
Your brain just accepts it.
your brain naturally and almost automatically lowers its defenses. You are socially conditioned to assume legitimacy before you verify it.
Wow. So they aren't hacking the telecom network. They are hacking your social conditioning.
Precisely. If someone knocks on your door and says, "Hi, I'm John from down the street, let me check your wallet," well, you ask 100 questions. You might call the police.
Right, and slam the door.
But if that same person is wearing a flawless police uniform and flashes a realistic badge, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles deep critical thinking and logic, takes a back seat to your conditioned compliance.
You comply first and think second.
Yes.
Okay, so they have the mask on. I believe I'm talking to my bank or the police or a government agency.
The authority is established.
But just wearing the mask isn't enough to make someone hand over their life savings?
Yeah.
I mean, how do they actually take control of the interaction?
This brings us to what the FBI and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, highlight in the article. The human mind is the primary target.
Not the computer.
Not the computer. The device, whether it's your phone or your laptop, is just the physical route in. Once they establish that false authority, they invent a narrative.
And what kind of narrative?
Well, it is incredibly specific. It is always a sudden, catastrophic problem, like a compromised bank account, or an impending arrest warrant, or a massive, fleeting opportunity, like a prize.
Right, the psychological heist, it's always an emergency. There's never any time to just sit and think about it.
And that is deliberate. The primary goal of the narrative is to trigger intense emotion before conscious thought can intervene.
Wow.
Fear, panic, hope, or even overwhelming love in the case of romance scams. They want to flood your system with emotion.
I'm trying to put myself in those shoes, though. I mean, if someone calls and tells me my life savings are gone or that there's a warrant out for my arrest.
Your stress spikes immediately.
Right, but my immediate instinct, or at least what I think my instinct would be, is to hang up and check my account myself. Doesn't extreme fear make us want to verify the threat?
You would think so.
Why wouldn't a person just say, let me call you right back?
Well, in a calm state, sitting in your living room right now talking to me, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But if we look at the neurobiology of what Dr. McGuinness calls emotional activation, a very different reality emerges.
Okay, what happens physically?
Under intense emotional arousal, when terror hits you that you are about to lose everything you've worked for, your body triggers a fight or flight response.
Adrenaline.
Yes, your sympathetic nervous system dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. When that happens, human attention physically and psychologically narrows.
Oh, like tunnel vision.
Exactly like tunnel vision. It is an evolutionary survival mechanism. Your brain prioritizes an immediate, visceral response to the perceived threat over careful, reflective reasoning.
So the logic center shuts down.
Essentially, yes. The scammer is deliberately altering your neuro-emotional state. They are forcing your brain into a state where it must rely on what psychologists call cognitive shortcuts.
Cognitive shortcuts. So basically, when the fire alarm is blaring, you don't stop to examine the wiring of the alarm system to see if it's a false positive. You just run for the exit.
That's a perfect way to look at it. They pull the fire alarm in your mind. The scammer knows that calm reflection is their absolute worst enemy.
Because if you pause...
If you have 5 minutes to think logically, the scam falls apart. So they ensure you do not get those 5 minutes.
Okay, so you've triggered my panic. My brain's logic center is essentially offline, and I'm relying purely on instinct and these shortcuts.
Right.
But eventually, human beings crash. The adrenaline wears off. How does the scammer stop me from just catching my breath, looking around, and realizing something is wrong?
Because the illusion only survives as long as reality is kept out of the conversation.
Ah.
This is where the machinery introduces the isolation phase. The scammer has to prevent you from returning to a calm, baseline state.
Reading through the source material, this part really got to me. It felt like reading about a magician's misdirection.
It's very similar.
It's like being in a pitch-black room with a single spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
The scammer completely controls that spotlight, and they shine it exclusively on the ticking clock of your quote-unquote compromised bank account. You are so focused on the light that you literally cannot see the exit door standing right next to you in the dark.
That is a brilliant analogy, a sensory deprivation tank. The scammer controls the spotlight through extreme urgency, creating what the framework defines as decision compression.
Decision compression,
Yeah.
meaning you have to decide right now.
Exactly. They tell you that you must act within minutes, or the funds will be permanently lost, or the police will be dispatched to your home. And then they layer on the secrecy.
Right, the instructions are always isolating. Don't tell anyone. Stay on the line with me. Do not hang up your phone.
They actively discourage you from seeking outside input.
They discourage contacting the real institution. They pressure you to override your normal skepticism. Like if you notice a weird grammatical error in their email or a strange link, they have a prepared script to dismiss it.
Yes, they anticipate those doubts.
But again, stepping back, if a so-called bank representative tells me I cannot tell my own spouse about a problem with our joint checking account, doesn't that immediately scream fraud to a normal, functioning adult?
Yes, it absolutely would. But remember the sequence of the machinery.
Okay.
We have to look at what the article defines as the control loop. By the time they ask for secrecy, you are no longer in a normal state.
Because of a fire alarm.
Exactly. You have already been subjected to severe reality distortion through that manufactured panic we just discussed. Because your critical thinking is actively suppressed by adrenaline and fear, the scammer can employ a tactic called risk minimization framing.
Wait, risk minimization. How does keeping a secret minimize risk?
Well, it doesn't, but they frame it as if it does.
Oh, I see.
The scammer pitches the demand for secrecy not as something suspicious they are doing, but as a necessary, vital step for your own protection.
Give me an example of how they phrase that.
They might say, listen, we suspect a rogue teller at your local branch is actually the one orchestrating this fraud. So you cannot go to the branch, you cannot speak to anyone there, and you cannot tell your spouse because it might inadvertently compromise this federal investigation and make you liable.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, that completely flips the script. Inside that emotional vacuum they've created, that twisted logic actually feels protective.
It does.
The isolation doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a lifeline they are throwing you.
Exactly. They weaponize your own integrity.
That is insidious.
It is. They use your desire to do the right thing, your desire to be a good citizen or protect your family, and they twist it to cut you off from the very people who could save you. Once you are isolated and fully relying on them to navigate the crisis they invented, they have you in the control loop.
Which brings us to the actual theft. The final devastating phase.
The extraction.
The extraction. With the victim isolated, highly emotional, and completely trusting this false authority figure to guide them to safety, the scammer moves toward their ultimate objective.
Right.
And the source points out a fascinating hallmark of this phase, the complete mismatch between the claimed problem and the demanded solution.
This is often the most confusing part for outside observers to understand.
It's baffling. I mean, suddenly to, quote, protect your bank account from international hackers, the helpful fraud agent tells you to drive to a grocery store and buy $5,000 worth of gift cards.
Or iTunes cards, yeah.
Right. Or to verify your identity to the police, you have to wire money to a stranger overseas or deposit cash into a Bitcoin ATM.
The FTC and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau constantly warn about these fast, irreversible payment methods.
Right. But this is where I get completely lost. I understand the panic. I understand the isolation. But how does a functioning human brain bridge that massive gap in logic? I mean, how do gift cards solve a bank error? It's like a doctor telling you that you have a broken leg and the only cure is to go buy iTunes gift cards.
It sounds absurd when you say it out loud in a safe environment.
It does.
But by the time that illogical solution is presented, the victim is experiencing what the text terms response acceleration.
Response acceleration, okay.
You have to understand that the scammer hasn't just suddenly asked for gift cards out of nowhere. They have established total behavioral control over the course of hours, sometimes days.
So they build up to it.
They have walked the victim down a very specific, carefully sequenced path of compliance.
So it's a ladder. They don't ask you to jump to the top. They make you take tiny steps.
Precisely. First, answer the phone. Then, verify your name.
Small yeses.
Yes. Then, log into your computer. Then, read me the balance. Then, stay on the line while you get in your car. It is step-by-step compliance conditioning. Every small command you follow reinforces their authority and your submission to that authority.
So by the time they ask for the gift cards, the victim isn't actually evaluating the logic of the final request at all.
They aren't. They are running on the sheer momentum of the panic and the established compliance.
Wow.
The scammer is not relying on the logic of buying a gift card to fix a bank error. They are relying on the psychological sunk cost.
The sunk cost. You're already in too deep.
Yes. You have already invested hours trusting this person to save you. To stop and question the gift cards now is to admit to yourself that you have been fooled, which the human ego violently resists.
It's incredible. Looking at point 15 in the article, it highlights that the scammer's ultimate goal is coercive behavioral control over the victim's perception.
Yes.
The money, the cryptocurrency, the gift cards, it's just the prize at the end.
Yeah.
The actual weapon being deployed is the control of your behavior long enough to extract that value before the illusion shatters.
Which brings us to a crucial and I think profound realization drawn directly from Dr. McGuinness's work.
What's that?
When you map out this architecture, the false authority, the emotional activation, the isolation chamber, the compliance conditioning, you realize something vital. Scams do not succeed because the victim lacks intelligence.
Right.
They do not succeed because the victim lacks education or life experience or common sense.
They succeed because they weaponize normal, healthy human traits.
Exactly. They exploit our social conditioning to trust authority. They exploit our hardwired neurobiological responses to sudden threats.
Our fight or flight.
Yes. They exploit our fundamental desire to solve problems and protect our loved ones. When we finally recognize that literally anyone's perception can be temporarily distorted under targeted, engineered pressure, the stigma of being scammed should completely disappear.
It really should.
It is not a character flaw in the victim. It is a highly sophisticated exploit of the human condition.
I want to echo that completely, and I want to speak directly to you right now, the listener.
Please do.
If you have been victimized by these psychological tactics, it is never, ever your fault. You were placed inside an invisible machine designed by professionals who do nothing but study how to hijack human nature.
Absolutely.
Who are manipulated by an architecture built to break down your natural defenses.
And stepping out of that machine, recognizing it for what it is and reclaiming your life is entirely possible. But you do not have to do it alone.
No, you don't.
In fact, doing it alongside others who understand exactly what you've been through is the fastest path to recovery.
Absolutely. Isolation is the scammer's best tool, both during the crime and after it. So we want to formally invite all scam victims or survivors listening right now to join the Scars Institute Survivors community for your support and your recovery.
It is so important to connect.
It is a space built for you. It is free, safe, and completely confidential. Sign up at www.scarscommunity.org. I'll say that again, www.scarscommunity.org. And for you to learn what you need to know right now to protect yourself and begin healing, please visit www.scamsvictimsupport.org.
Knowledge and community are the ultimate antidotes. But before we close, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over.
Okay, what is it?
We've spent this time dissecting how devastatingly effective these psychological tactics are today, relying simply on spoofed caller IDs, written scripts, and human acting.
Right. Just simple acting, really.
But the machinery is evolving. Think about the emotional activation we discussed, that primal panic. What happens to our defenses when scammers start deploying artificial intelligence to perfectly deep fake the voice or even the live video of your own child pleading for help?
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
If the human brain struggles to verify reality now, how will we adapt when the illusion becomes indistinguishable from truth?
That is a chilling question. And it's exactly why understanding the underlying machinery today is so critical for tomorrow. When you finally see the trapdoors and the hidden gears of the stage they built around you, the illusion loses its power.
Yes, it does.
The stage can be dismantled. Thank you for joining us for this Scars Institute Exploration podcast. Stay safe, stay connected, and remember the lock they are trying to pick isn't on your front door. It's the one guarding your perspective. Don't let them build the stage.
Thank you for listening to our Scars Institute audio exploration podcast. Remember that this was not your fault, and you are not alone. But right now, there are things you need to know. Start by visiting www.scarscommunity.org www.scamvictimsupport.org. This will help you learn the basics that every scam victim and survivor needs to know now. We are here for you. We have created a free, safe, and confidential space just for you. You can learn and recover in the SCARS Institute's Scam Survivors Support and Recovery Community. To sign up, please visit www.scarscommunity.org. Answer a few questions to help us better support you and begin your recovery. This has been another in the SCARS Institute Audio Exploration podcast series. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe. We wish you all the best, and remember that the SCARS Institute is here to help. This podcast is copyright 2026 by the Society of Citizens Against Relationship Scams, Inc.